Let me take you to Parliament. Parker Wilson is my parliamentary correspondent. Parker, what exactly was the question that the roads minister was expected to answer on the floor?
Evans, this was an urgent question, and it was from the ranking member on the roads committee. This is the man, I'm talking about Kwame Abuja, who consistently has been kicking against the decision to suspend the road toll. So he had already served notice that he was going to file an urgent question asking the minister to brief the House how much we've lost as a country since the cessation of the road toll. So that was the specific question he asked on the floor, and the minister gave the answer that no amount of money has been lost since the suspension of the road toll.
Well, was he satisfied with that answer?
Evans, it was quite obvious if you look at his demeanor and his posture in the chamber. At a point, he sought to banter with the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joseph Osei-Usu, who was presiding over sitting. It was clear that Kwame Abuja was not satisfied.
The minister announced the cessation of collection of toll before the budget was approved. Mr. Speaker, for the record, there would have been revenue loss at least until the day the budget was approved. So the minister's answer can't be accurate. The budget was not approved on the day it was read. So, Mr. Speaker, how much revenue has been lost so far? Even if it's for 2 days, the minister should be able to account for that.
I think he has answered that question.
Is it the case that when ministers say things that we know obviously are not accurate, we should accept them simply because they are ministers? Because the budget was approved on a different date from the date he made the announcement. So there's a gap. Unless you want to say that whatever ministers say are sacrosanct. But in this case, we might be pretending that what he says is accurate. It's not accurate. No, I will not answer a different question. You must answer the one I've asked.
He has answered that question. If you have another question, please ask it.
So, Parker, so clearly there from what we're hearing, the Abuja wasn't excited, and it appears that he wasn't allowed to proceed with his follow-up question on that expresses his disappointment. But I wonder, Parker, was he driving at a point about whether government may be considering or regretting abolishing the tolls and possibly considering reinstating it in some shape or form, especially on the back of what we've just heard from the finance minister admitting that it's become a chain around their neck?
After the banter with him and the speaker and the minister, and he was essentially forced to now ask a different question. Then he proceeded to ask the minister, okay, are you therefore going to reinstate, looking at the economic conditions we have in the country? And that was when the minister revealed that there were other sources of revenue and indicated to the House that they intend or government plans to securitize the e-levy so that they can build or improve upon the road infrastructure of the country.
Mr. Speaker, does the minister have any intention of reinstating the collection of tolls?
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, government is fully determined to use all forms of revenue into the road fund to build road infrastructure in the country, including the revenue from tolls. Mr. Speaker, there are four main sources. And the four main sources, one is what we get from the fuel levy. Mr. Speaker, the almost 2 billion Ghana cedis expected to accrue into the fund. The fuel levy alone contributes not less than 94%. The other three sources, from the toll booths, from the DVLA sources, and from vehicles that transcend on the corridors of our country, the three together constitute nearly 6%. And the honorable member has been the long service experience of ranking member of the Roads and Transport Committee. The government, in its wisdom, has proposed the passage of the e-levy, to bring in more revenue to build the road infrastructure of our country for all of us. So government is looking forward to the passage of the e-levy that will bring in greater revenue that will be securitized and then used to raise a bond, if possible. I'm answering the question, so listen to me. I am answering the question. To raise a bond to build the road sector infrastructure. So government's direction and government policy is to bring in a better form of correction, because the toll revenue is built in the proposed e-levy. So that's what government is determined to ensure that is brought to bear.
And Parker, so this was a revelation not expected, but the Roads Minister nonetheless still made that revelation that part of the plan with the e-levy is to securitize it for more borrowing, in effect. I understand the minority has been addressed at the press conference and it's become a central theme for them.
For the minority, I mean, the open admission from the minister only confirmed their fears and what they've been saying over the month gone by, that the e-levy essentially will be collateralized to generate more revenue or borrow more to do business in the country. So they were not really surprised, but only to say that government will go in for more loans, which will affect the economy.
Parker, stay with me because we'll talk about what's happening with the those toll collectors and the plans the government announced they have for them. The minister has been saying a few things about that. But let me bring in the man who asked the question, Kwame Agboja. He's a ranking on the Road Transport Committee. Joins us on the telephone line right now. Mr. Agboja, so on the fundamental primary question you asked, have we had any revenue loss? The minister says no, because it wasn't budgeted for, and so you can't talk about loss. We are not happy with that, but those are the facts, are they not? Hello, Mr. Agboja. Okay, I may have lost Mr. Agboja on the telephone line. We'll try and get him back on there with all that you've had there. So if you're just joining us, three key things emerging today from the tolls, the road tolls, the subject of the e-levy. The finance minister admitting today at a town hall meeting on the e-levy, the consultation, that the decision to abolish the road tolls have become a chain around the neck of government because they had anticipated a speedy passage of the e-levy, which was the revenue from there would have replaced what they would have lost from the e-levy. Of course, the e-levy hasn't been passed yet. Meaning that they are left with no money from the tolls and no money also from the e-levy. It describes as one that has become a chain around their neck. And we're also learning tonight from the transport minister, who was on the floor of Parliament today, clearly stating that as far as he's concerned, there hasn't been any loss to the state revenue-wise, because he explained that it wasn't factored into the budget. But then he also makes a revelation that we are now hearing for the very first time, that government, what part of the plan for the e-levy is to securitize the levy for more borrowing, to raise bonds on the international market to finance the construction of roads. Three key things that had come up today. The minority has been addressing a press conference on all these today in Parliament. I wanted to listen to the ranking member on the Roads and Transport Committee, Kwame Agboja, speaking to the press shortly after the minister finished addressing the House.
In his answer, he said that in the approved budget, road tolls have been zero rated, so no money have been lost. But friends of the media, you must understand that the minister announced the cessation of the collection of tolls on the day the budget was read. The budget was not approved on the same day. So surely there was about 25 to 30 days gap between the day the announcement was made and the day the budget was actually approved. Significantly, the NPP government pretended that the road toll, the e-levy was all about helping Ghana to stop borrowing, that we should be on our own, we should generate our own revenue and use it to do the things that we needed to do. Shockingly, in the minister's answer today, he let the cat out of the bag by saying that when we pay e-levy, the government was going to securitize and take bigger loans with the e-levy. In effect, e-levy would only give government the opportunity to do even bigger borrowing than they are doing now. So e-levy will not stop us from borrowing, because when you borrow, you must pay back. So I think this is very, very important. He also tried to rationalize by saying that when the reason they suspended the collection of tolls was that the tolls were not bringing in enough revenue. My brothers and sisters, it's a fact that in the 2022 budget, road fund is supposed to generate at least 2 billion Ghana cedis. In 2021, the road tolls accrued over 78 million Ghana cedi. A government that is, we are told, is broke, 78 million Ghana cedi could have paid at least NAPCO people. So it is not true to say that the 78 million Ghana cedi is not needed. We needed it. In any case, we are going to invest, they claim we are going to invest in, creating job for the youth, isn't it? We have other taxes. We have other taxes that are being collected to do the same thing. Why haven't they stopped those ones? They talk about other things, including sports and other, we are paying all those things. So for the record, we just want you to be aware and convey this to the Ghanaian, that contrary to government comments, that e-levy is to give us independence from the Bretton Woods institutions, i.e., so that we stop borrowing. Today you've heard it yourself. Subsequently, he tried to wiggle himself out of it by saying it is possible. That was not the answer he gave me when I asked him a direct question. But knowing what he said was not going to sit well with the Ghanaian people, because he's exposed the government's real intention. The real intention is for government to get the e-levy passed and securitize it and take bigger loans. So generations beyond me, beyond the minister, beyond President Akufo-Addo will be saddled with debt.
So that's a minority press conference shortly after the roads minister spoke to the members on the floor. Parker is still with me. Parker, on that subject, we'll come to that a bit more shortly, because I want to hear from the minister on the suggestion that he made today regarding what is happening to those who, of course, had lost their jobs, those toll collectors. He had been making some revelations about this on the floor, and that there have been conversations with them and their unions about what government plans to do for them. He says there's been a very heated meeting, and government's plan is still in place, but conversations and negotiations are still continuing. Parker will join me very shortly on that. But let's dig into this revelation today that the e-levy, part of the plan, is to securitize it for more borrowing. I want to bring in economist with the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Lord Mensah, who joins us on the telephone line right now. Dr. Mensah, thank you for your time here on Top Story. What's your reaction to this revelation tonight by the Roads Minister that we may be, he was very clear on this matter, that collateralizing the e-levy for borrowing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised to hear this evening. Because if you go on PCFM online, the Deputy Finance Minister, John Kuma, on the 3rd of March, which is indicated that they will not use as collateral for loans. And so there seems to be that kind of free-for-all kind of governance that we are experiencing in this country. I mean, i.e., there seems to be lack of information flow across the various government machineries. But far from that, let's come to the economic aspect. You realize that, government is desperate for funds. and not funds that can be deferred, from today. If the e-levy is approved, cash that the government needs, might not be realized immediately as, the structures are. They're going to trickle in, gradually. And looking at the signals on the grounds and how desperate, government is in need of funds, the obvious thing will be to take a loan up front. And then as the cash proceeds from e-levy comes in, it will be used to, offset this loan. But then that will come at a cost. Of course, if you take a loan, you pay interest on it. And so I am surprised to see this kind of conflicting statement coming from, the quarters of government. You ask yourself, the kind of government will be running as we speak now. Because a day or two, we cannot change our mind, when it comes to governance. E-levy, as I'm saying, seems to be something that the government wants to have to replace the Eurobond funds that we've been, going for. And if you look at the projections of about 6.9, as of the time that as of January, clearly the e-levy was matching up expected proceeds was matching up to the $1 billion that we always target on the Eurobond market. So effectively, it's more or less a replacement. And this Eurobond market, if you look at the characteristics, normally it's more or less a upfront money that the government will always have in their bosom. The only difference is that this time they're going to have it in cities. But because of the government appetite for dollars and looking at the shortage in dollars and then the rate at which exchange rate is going up, they will have no choice than to mortgage it and use it for foreign loans.
But the question then becomes, now that the roads minister appears to have dropped this bombshell, is that a smart economic move to, in essence, collateralize the e-levy? We know how controversial it already is for borrowing purposes. Is that a smart economic move?
Well, if you look at this government approach, that has been the situation. Always, going for an upfront fund to ensure that they use it. But the unfortunate thing is that when these funds are realized, sometimes its impact on the economy is difficult to measure. And so that brings about so many questions as to whether it's the best move for us or not. Because if you look at GET funds, the cash flows has been, mortgaged as the finance minister, the roads minister has indicated that we're going to do with the, part of the e-levy. And so for me, the history has not been supporting that kind of collateralization. And effectively, if we should go in that direction, I would not be happy to say that it is very good economic management. But, the dynamics might change. You may never know that maybe going for it now will be a different ball game altogether. But for me, the history has never supported it, that collateralizing some of the cash flows that we have in our system for upfront loans has been helping. I would not say it has been helping because most of the impact, we find it difficult to measure them.
And also today, we heard from the finance minister at the e-levy town hall make an admission that they had anticipated that the e-levy would have been approved quickly, and then that will quickly replace whatever we'll be losing from the decision to abolish road tolls. Of course, the e-levy hasn't been approved, and he says it's become a chain around government's neck. That admission just shows, does it not, that we are in March now. The first quarter is almost just now, gone. Government is losing a lot. There's a lot of bleeding happening as we speak without the e-levy.
Yeah, Evans, I can tell you that whoever took the decision to, stop the road tolls has caused financial loss to the state. We know very well when we read budget, the processes that budget must go through before the approval of funds, release of funds, and then actualization of those funds in the accounts of the various institutions that are supposed to use the funds. We know the processes. They are quite cumbersome. And looking at a hung parliament, I don't foresee any prudent economic management who will say that I'm going to remove road tolls because we have e-levy captured in the budget, which will have portions of it going into tolls. So whoever took that decision, whatever we've lost since the day that we took off the road tolls on daily basis, must be surcharged for it. It is a financial loss to the state. And so, for me, yes, the finance minister has called for it, all right, but it wasn't a prudent decision to take off the road tolls.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lord Mensah. Dr. Lord Mensah is with the University of Ghana Business School, he's an economist there. What is your own take on what we're hearing tonight, both from the finance minister, that the decision to abolish the road tolls has become a chain around the neck of government, and then obviously the revelation by the roads minister that the controversial e-levy, if passed, will be used as a collateral for more borrowing. I want to hear from you. 055-11-11997. Ghana Connect. We are in Ukraine tonight. Have you heard that many, or some rather, of the Ghanaians stranded in Ukraine, with government, of course, is doing everything they can to get them home? Some of them say they simply don't want to come home. Really? Why is that? Is there a bigger point there about the state of our nation, that they would rather prefer to struggle and suffer in a country with all the reports you're hearing about racism, the maltreatment of blacks and Ghanaians? They rather stay in, say, Romania, after they've managed to cross in the border there, than come back home to Ghana. We're having a conversation with some of them tonight, a very honest conversation about us as a people, of course, as we approach another Independence Day celebration.
Masa, yet to unlimited calls. Oh, Vodafone Red, so you know here. Jack, me too. No expiry with Vodafone Red. Yeah, star 200 hash, huh? I bab the move when you be what? Vodafone Red, no lie. Cocraft me top man do you be kasako e browse da. Vodafone Red, star 200 hash. Assistem. Sisi dia ye kasako na ye browse. Star 200 hash gives you unlimited calls on Vodafone to Vodafone. More data, more talk time to friends on other networks. No expiry, and the best value at affordable prices. Vodafone Ready, dear, we know. Simply dial star 200 hash to choose a package that best suits you from as low as 1 Ghana cedi. Vodafone.
Because of rumors that insurance companies will only waste your time, I never bothered to make claims until one day I rear-ended a car and the owner wanted it repaired immediately. I called Prime Insurance, my insurers, and they walked me through how to get a crime earned my trust that day. So I upgraded from third party to comprehensive. My advice: get insurance today and get it from Prime Insurance.
From January to March 2022, Prime Insurance is rewarding customers with prizes worth over 500,000 Ghana cedis for new sign-ups and renewals in the Prime Jiwudia promo. Call 020-859-8216 to find out the Prime office or agent closest to you.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Ghana Connect.
We are receiving those not